Both the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals are coming off tough Week 1 losses here, but they get to both vie for their first win as the Los Angeles Rams are flying to Arizona to take on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals here. It's going to be a great game. I think the Cardinals are a sleeper team on the season as well, and the Los Angeles Rams have a lot of firepower that can beat any team on any given day. We're going to break down this game and the matchups within the game that you need to watch, but before we get into that, if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to the Tracy Take. And while you're at it, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game here. We nearly got 100 new subscribers with our Week 1 prediction video. So Week 2, we're trying to see if we can break that 100 new subscriber threshold with all these videos here. So any help is greatly appreciated. Ryan, I want to throw it over to you here first. Cardinals look great out of the gate, but unfortunately just lost to Buffalo here in Week 1. And the Rams, even kind of with an injury to Puka Nacua, were able to come back and take the lead late in the fourth quarter, but unfortunately lost in overtime to the Detroit Lions here. What do you think of both the Cardinals and the Rams teams after their Week 1 performances?
Yeah, I thought the Rams showed some good fight. Definitely some cause for concern. Thought Matthew Stafford got hit a decent bit in that matchup. And granted, Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport, that's a pretty good pass rushing duo. And the Lions have a pretty good front seven altogether. So that's one thing there. But definitely concerning with Puka Nacua. Like, where does this offense go from here? Definitely a little bit more one-dimensional with only Cooper Kupp out there. Like, he can definitely, I think, be slowed down a lot more now and kind of make the Rams rely a little bit more on other targets. And defensively, I thought they did okay. I thought they did a good job in the middle part of the game, kind of slowing things down. But in the beginning, I felt they got behind. Well, obviously they got behind to 17-3. But in the beginning, I felt they kind of let the game get away from them. And then at the end, maybe it was just like a conditioning thing, but they just looked gassed. And they couldn't really do anything about the run late in that game. And I think you look, Arizona was able to run the ball fairly well. Kyler Murray averaged over 10 yards per carry. I know a lot of that's scrambles and whatnot, but they still did a pretty good job against the Bills, who are supposed to have a fairly stout run defense. And then, like, obviously, I don't think Kyler Murray had the best game passing, especially kind of looking at some of the missed opportunities, or specifically the one missed opportunity to throw to Marvin Harrison Jr. down the field to potentially win the game with a game or lead taking touchdown late in that game. I'm sure we've all seen the highlight of him waving his hand with nobody around him. But all in all, I think this is going to be a really competitive matchup. These are two division opponents who know each other very, very well. And I'm very excited to see kind of how they stack up against each other.
Yeah. No, it's the Cardinals are a team, I think, that I hope that they surprise a couple people, even though they lost. That we've been saying it kind of throughout the entire offseason. This is an improved team. They might not make the playoffs, but they're in the steps in the right direction. They got a good foundation there. And the Rams, too, even kind of with a beat-up offensive line and losing Puka Nacua halfway through the game, they were still able to kind of come back and claw their way back to take a lead, and they had an overall good performance, I thought, for Week 1 against a good Lions team. Let's kind of go to the matchup here and kind of watch some of the key matchups within this game, within this Week 2 game. But before we get into that, if you do like to put a couple bucks down on the Rams or Cardinals game, be sure to check the link down below. That US has a bunch of great promotions going on right now for first-time players here. And I kind of throughout the week, I think the odds on who the favorite is going to be is going to kind of fluctuate. I think it's going to depend also on who's going to be available for the Rams. As they thank you to all the Rams fans that commented. I will say I didn't even realize how injured the Rams offensive line was going into this game. And also then too, even after that as well, I saw Steve Avila got hurt during the game also. And so it's going to be unique on just who is the starting offensive line for the Rams here kind of moving into this Week 2 matchup. But they were still able to produce in that second half. They were able to exploit, I would think, and had exploitment opportunities that they took advantage of in the second half against a good Lions defense. And the Cardinals defense is not as dominant, nowhere near as dominant as the Lions defense. And so it's going to be curious to see what kind of game plan they come in, because they're still going to have Cooper Kupp. They're still going to have Kyren Williams. They still have a lot of good speed and honestly a great offensive-minded coach in Sean McVay. But on the flip side then too as well, if you kind of go look at the Lions game as a whole, they had the one long touchdown drive in the first in the first half to go up 10-3. Then they had the explosive play to James and Williams. Then they had a field goal, obviously, early on in the game. But they were kind of able to contain the Lions team offense as a whole outside of really, I would say, just that one big explosive play. But then to your point, though, then come end of the fourth quarter and then overtime, the defense is just gas. And they were just grinding the ball, and the Lions were able to take control. So in general, I think it was a solid defense performance here. And I think they're going to need to have one as well because the Cardinals are one of the best running teams in the league. Kyler Murray and James Conner both had a good game. James Conner, 16 for 50 with a touchdown. Kyler Murray had 5 carries for 57 yards. Still extremely dynamic. One of the areas I think the Cardinals are going to need to improve on is going to be that passing game. Kyler Murray, 21 for 31 for 162 yards. And was obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. is on my dynasty team, so I'm even more disappointed that he only had 1 catch. But I think it's going to be interesting. How do they implement him into this not implement? They're actually trying to, but when is that breakout game for him, and when does he really start to get his feet wet? Because I think it's going to be as Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. just get more in sync with one another. I can honestly see it being kind of similar connection to maybe like a Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. They just started to play together for so long. Obviously, Matt Stafford's not as quick as Kyler Murray, so it's going to be a different kind of connection. But I could see them connecting with each other a lot just because of how freak of an athlete Marvin Harrison Jr. is.
Yeah, and that was one thing that definitely stood out to me for the Cardinals against the Bills was Greg Dortch was their leading receiver with 6 receptions for 47 yards. It definitely felt like they just weren't utilizing him in a proper way. And I probably need to go back and watch the actual film of it and just see if Marvin Harrison Jr. was actually getting open or if there was just not as many plays kind of getting him involved. But I definitely think they need to do that more. You spent the 4th overall pick on him. You want him to be much more involved than 1 catch. And so getting him involved in this offense, keeping this offense balanced, I think is going to be a really big thing because they did run the ball so well. Teams are going to start to pick up on that and start loading the box. So definitely keeping this offense balanced. They actually have a pretty good wide receiver group with Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch. Those are 3 decent receivers. Trey McBride and I believe Zach Ertz. Or no, he's on the Commanders now. Trey McBride is there as well, and he's a pretty good tight end too. So I like the pass catching room that they have. I just want to see them maybe utilize it a little bit more.
Well, and I think to be fair to Marvin Harrison and the Cardinals as well, if you go look at the top draft picks from this last year's class, not really too many of them had great games overall. It's hard to keep a stat for Joe Alt, but that the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line dominated the Raiders offensive line, a defensive line, I felt. So maybe you could say that's a good game. But Malik Neighbors had an okay game. Part of that, I will say, is due to his quarterback. Jaden Daniels had, I'll say, a solid opening game, but they still lost. Caleb Williams didn't really have that great of a game also. It's as great as these prospects were coming out of college, it's still the NFL. It's still their first game as a professional. So I think it's just going to take that time. And on the flip side, though, too, you're going to have a veteran team in Los Angeles who might be a little dinged up, but they're still going to have their opportunities, I think, against a Cardinals defense that is improving behind Jonathan Gannon. And so I think that matchup is going to be interesting. I will say kind of another X factor kind of before we get into the picks overall is just how does this Cardinals defense just try and because I think the Rams have an opportunity to beat them with the run and then beat them with the pass as well, just with how effective they are. And I think they're going to need to take their medicine and just figure out which one is worse. I personally think that if they're able to stop the run, I think it's going to make them a little bit more predictable. The Rams a little bit more predictable. And with Puka Nacua not playing, I think that's going to be a little bit more of the avenue. Now, it's going to provide the opportunity for some more explosive plays, yes. But I think if the Cardinals' front 7 is able to slow down Kyler Williams and this running game, which he can go off, how'd they end up doing in this?
He had 18 for 50 and a touchdown against the Lions.
Okay, so not bad against a good Lions run defense.
And they have DJ Reader now as well. And so, that middle is a lot more stout. I know they were a good run defense last year, but and so the Cardinals' front 7 are
able to stop them with 7 guys in the box, instead of putting 8 guys in the box, I think it's going to help out their chances a lot because there's going to be a lot of movement in this Rams offense, even without Puka Nacua. So I want to throw it over to you for the predictions. Who do you have winning this game and why?
I'm actually going to go with the Cardinals. I just think they are the younger, hungrier team in this matchup. I think that they could come in here, utilize their receiving weapons a little bit more. This is a pretty banged up Rams team at the moment, and I just think that the Cardinals could take advantage of that.
Yeah. I really want to go against you. I really am trying to convince myself, like, just go against you no matter what, because I initially was going to take the Cardinals. But I'm actually going to stick with this one here. I think this is going to be my upset of the week as well. I think this Cardinals team is going to be kind of one of those, kind of like their coming out party, I think, being the Rams. I know it's not going to be as impressive as like a full healthy Rams team, but I think it's still going to come off as it was the Rams based off of last year. And even with how tight the NFC is, kind of for those 5, 6, 7 wild card spots, as well as the NFC starting to get deeper, there are unfortunately going to be teams that just don't make it just because they get unlucky, like with the injury bug. And I think maybe you can make the arguments the Rams might be that team. Still super early. Rams got off to a slow start last year as well. And so maybe this is way too early. Overreaction Monday, as we are recording on a Monday. That being said, though, I think it's just kind of the Cardinals are going in the right direction anyways. Not that the Rams are going in a bad direction, but I like what I saw overall. I think Kyler Murray and that passing offense is going to pick things up. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get more involved in the passing game. And I think it's going to open things up even more for James Conner in that running game.
Yeah, I also think, too, on the defensive side of the ball, I actually thought the Cardinals did a decent job stopping, like, traditional runs, like downhill runs last week. What really hurt them was Josh Allen kind of getting out of the pocket and scrambling. And I think while Matthew Stafford is probably a much better thrower in the pocket, that is something that he doesn't really bring to the table, is him getting out of the pocket and beating guys to the pylon for a touchdown. So I think that is going to be a decent matchup. I'm really excited for this one. I'm glad this is a 4:05 game because there are some 1:00 games I want to watch. This is probably the 4:00 game.
Well, and also too,
watching.
I need to go back and look at what are some of the other 4, because one of them is Pittsburgh, Denver, and that's going to be a tough one to watch. And then I think the other one's Tampa Bay and Detroit. That's going to be a fun one to watch.
Oh, that'll be a good one. And
then the other one, and then you got Bengals Chiefs. Oh, so you just have 3. Okay, you just have. Oh, okay.
That was 4, but
yeah, Tampa Bay Detroit's not 4:00. My apologies. That is 1:00. So,
okay.
So we will definitely be watching 2 of the 3 4:00 games.
Yeah. So I like it. I like this matchup a lot. I think this is going to be a really fun one, kind of going forward. I want to see how these teams stack up, because you do kind of have the older, more veteran Rams kind of going against the young guns in the Arizona Cardinals. So it's going to be a fun one to watch. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here. We are both taking the Cardinals. I thought we would disagree on this one, but go ahead, leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. While you're down there, go ahead and like and subscribe. And on that, we will see you guys next time.